My name is Aaron Hale, and I work the night shift at St. Mercy's Hospital. You probably picture fluorescent halls and kindly nurses and the soft mechanical music of monitors. That was the image I carried in my head the week I applied. I thought the night job would be quiet work. Check rooms, push carts, answer a call light now, and then keep the floor tidy. Make sure nobody wandered off into the wrong corridor at 3 a.m. I sold insurance before this, and I missed the living light of people's ordinary lives. The night shift at the hospital paid better and kept me off the road. So I took it. I told myself I'd get a few years, save a little, and move somewhere the winter was kinder. After 7 years, I am not saving anymore. I'm keeping my head down. I am learning the rules whispered by nurses in the hallway at 2 in the morning, by the cleaning staff who fold linen like prayer, by the old security guard who puts his hand on the railing and hums, as if to remind the building it still has a keeper. The rules are not rules on paper. You won't find them in the employee manual. You learn them the way someone learns to look both ways before crossing a street, without a conscious decision, because you want to stay breathing. We have 7 rules on night shift. Everyone remembers them differently, but the meaning is the same. Listen, not because I want you to be scared, but because the next thing I tell you might keep you alive. Rule 1. If a room is empty and the door knocks from inside, do not open it. Don't answer. Knock knock does not mean a visitor. Rule 2. There are patients who ask you, "You're late again." They will say it to your face. Don't respond. Don't stay. Walk away and don't look back. Rule 3. On floor 3, the ceiling moves. If you hear something crawl above the tiles, do not look up. Hold your hands flat on the bed and count to 20. Keep your face down. Rule 4. Handover at midnight is sacred. If day shift says they already left, they did not. The people who stand in the hall at 11:58 and call themselves staff sometimes aren't staff at all. If the faces look drab and their badge names are wrong, back away. Rule 5. If you hear a child laugh in the stairwell after 2 a.m., take the elevator. Do not open the stairwell door. The child's laugh is sticky. It wants you to come down, and it will teach you the wrong steps. Rule 6. If the PA system announces code gray, sublevel, pretend you never heard it. There is no sublevel. The hospital is not built for that door. If you follow the announcement, you will find a room that remembers you and asks for more. Rule 7. When you clock out at 6 a.m., do not look back. There is always someone at the window watching the exit at that hour. If they are there and you meet their eyes, they will know you by your true name. Walk straight to your car and do not slow your step. I didn't learn all these rules in the first week. I learned them the hard way, and I learned them with the slow, stubborn disbelief of someone who clings to reason. When they said, "Don't answer a knock in an empty room," I laughed and thought of creaky pipes. When they told me, "Don't speak back to someone who says you're late," it felt like office gossip. When they warned about floor 3, I assumed it was just bad ventilation. You can see how foolish that sounds from my end now. You should be wiser than I was if you ever get the itch to work nights. The first night, I saw something I could not explain. I was 10 weeks into the job. I was walking my rounds with a linen cart, the clack of plastic casters against tile filling my ears. The clock at the nurse's station said 1:14 a.m., the kind of time that seals your thoughts inside your skull and lets only the smallest sounds through. The 3rd floor had been quiet for hours. Lights dimmed. The monitors in rooms 301 to 310 pulsed a steady, sleepy light that made a human feel small and safe. I moved slowly, making my list. Check 4 lines, empty waste baskets, strip a bed here, straighten a call light there. Room 305 was empty for reasons I had never asked. The chart on the clipboard said, "Deceased, family notified, do not assign," in handwriting that looked like a quiet command from another life. The door was closed. I have always been someone who hears a thing and does not ignore it. So when I heard the knock, it felt personal. 3 soft taps from inside, patient like a metronome. I should have kept walking. Rule 1. Do not answer. But the sound was a cadence I knew. a rhythm I'd heard from 1,000 doors and 1,000 houses. Not a hospital at all, but my childhood home on an ordinary night. The tap said a name in the pattern of Dad, it's me. My hand moved to the handle before my brain finished the thought. Before I could touch it, someone grabbed my wrist. "Don't," said Susan, the ER nurse. Her voice was a thin thread across the linoleum, a voice that had seen more nights than she let on. She had been standing behind the nurse's station, a silhouette with a cup of coffee. Her face was pale, eyes hard with a truth I did not want. She dragged me backward until my shoulders hit the counter. Then she turned her head and looked at the closed door with the kind of fear that is not loud, but is heavy. "Once you answer them," she said quietly, "they learn your name. They follow you." I swallowed and let the cart roll by under the weight of that. We stayed still for a long time and listened. Two people who used to believe that hospitals held answers, not questions. The knocking stopped. Nothing else happened. But later the next day, the housekeeper on third shift told me the same room had its chart updated. A line had been crossed out and a new note written in careful script. Resident request. Tuck-in patient. No resident lived there. No family had been at the bedside, and the pen stroke looked like it had been written by the wind. After that night, the hospital began to breathe differently around me. The monitors flashed off then back on. A call light went on and off in an empty room like a heartbeat hitting a dull patch of wool. The patient boards sometimes updated themselves with names from the 1970s, names nurses whispered like old songs, faces their kids once photographed in black and white. Once the televisors would flicker and behind them, a blur, an extra figure, out of step, watching. By month 3, I had begun to learn the cadence of the lying quiet that lives in hospitals at 2 in the morning. But learning the cadence did not stop the shivers. Rule 2 came alive the night I almost answered my own death. I was making medication rounds again when a patient in 317 called out my name. The tablets were lined up like a row of machines, and the label confirmed a real person was assigned to this bed. The lamp made halos in the dim. The patient's voice from the bed was soft and strangely familiar. "You're late again," he said. I froze. The voice was not a nurse's voice. It was not an old man or a child. It was my own voice intensifying from a speaker inside my skull. A chill crawled up the back of my neck, as if someone had traced a vertebrae with cold copper. "Sir," I said aloud, because that is what you do. You acknowledge the patient's voice, and then I remembered the rule. Don't answer. Don't stay. Walk away. I took one step back and turned toward the door. The person in the bed reached out. Fingers, pale and wet, splayed against the sheet. The lights flickered. The 4-pump chirped once, a small surprise sound. The patient's lips moved, and the words spilled not from his throat, but into my head. "You always come when I call," it said in my voice. My knees nearly buckled. I walked out of 317 without the meds, and did not return until the sun painted the elevators in a false kind of mercy. Later that day, I asked a colleague about the chart. He shrugged and told me the family had placed a special note. Do not disturb. The hospital had appended a sticky note to the file. Patient requesting no visitors overnight. Staff aware. No such note existed when I'd been in the room that night. It had appeared sometime in the hours after I left, written neat and exact with the same pen that always resides in the supply cart. Subtle changes became the hospital's way of touching me. A cold that followed down an empty corridor. A soft rustle of paper in the linen closet though the room was empty. The scent of wet earth in an area never kind to houseplants. The cameras sometimes caught things phones could not. I remember watching a security feed of the loading bay. Empty, rain sleek. Then, in the feed, a small figure walking behind a far truck in a way that the camera did not record in real time. The feed lagged, then caught up, and I watched the figure's shadow fall where no shadow actually existed. After that, the guard who watched the gates at night changed his shift 2 weeks in a row without giving a reason. Floor 3 was the worst. I had joked once about rooms that are like basements, and a nurse nearly slapped my wrist. She told me to learn the rule. She told me how the ceilings on the floor sometimes rearrange themselves, the tiles rising like skin, revealing something underneath that had no right to be breathing. If you hear it walking, don't look, she said. Keep your face down. Count to 20. Don't blink until your count finishes. Repeat if necessary. She looked like someone who'd taught the count to herself in the dark and felt silly saying it aloud. But the next week, she disappeared off the schedule, and a faded magnet went up where her face used to hang on the staff board. One night happened. The cleaning cart sat in the middle of room 309, and I'd been to pick up a drop towel. When I looked up, the ceiling was moving. Not that the tiles were shifting in a way modern buildings sometimes do. No, this felt alive. Grayish shapes bulged between the panels like fingers pressing out from the other side of a membrane. A low, wet sound slipped from between the vents. Every hair on my arms rose. I pressed my palms flat to the bed and counted to 20, and the numbers came out like grainy pieces of a memory. 1, 2, 3, but my heart pounded like a hammer. On the 21st count, I lifted my eyes. The ceiling had smoothed like a sheet under a hand. A row of ceiling tiles above the bed snapped into place, as if they had never moved. Later, the maintenance log read, "Ceiling tiles were placed in room 309, followed by a small note in parentheses. No ink. There are things the hospital will let you forget in daylight. The sun and the visits, the smell of fresh coffee in the staff lounge, the sleep that seeps in the bones when shift ends. All these things temper memory. But at night, the hospital, the way the building swallows light and memory, allows a slow kind of noticing. I noticed how sometimes the PA system would announce code gray, sublevel, and then go silent for 5 minutes. I noticed how the staff who'd been on at the time the message played looked at each other with the peculiar tightness of people who have done something they cannot unsee. I noticed that the janitor's hat was 3 shades darker the day after one of those messages. I noticed the old security guard no longer took his coffee black. Now he drank it sweet and thick, and he kept glancing at the stairwell as if expecting a toddler to peek from the steps. What happened that made me understand fully is the night of room 317 and the sheet with the teeth, which came into existence not wholly of the hospital's imagination. The night I was taken, if taken is the right word. I remember the creature's touch, the way it hovered like a question. I remember waking up on the floor with a paper that said simply, "You're late again." After that, everything escalated. The cameras began to show me in places I had not been. My badge clocked me at the linen closet when, in reality, I had been at the break room. One night, I watched a camera in the nurse station and saw my own hands folding a blanket in slow motion into a square I would not make in life. Each frame was slightly delayed, and in the delay my image looked at the camera with an expression I did not own. I would go to the control room, and the tech would shrug and say the feed had lagged. Lag. We all used to think lag meant nothing more than a bad connection. Now I don't think connection matters. The building keeps its own time, and sometimes the clocks tick to a different drummer. The night the announcement for code gray, sublevel, played for a full half hour, and the tilt of the hospital changed. The doors that lead to the maintenance tunnels opened like yawls exhaling. The floor under me felt thin. My feet felt like they belonged to someone else. On the monitor at the nurse's desk, a little moved into a blanked out area labeled sublevel. There were no cameras there. There were supposed to be no rooms there. The monitoring software showed a triangular icon that grew and whispered, and then it vanished. The building seemed to lean toward that spot the way a hungry thing leans toward warmth. Sally from overnight housekeeping placed a hand on my forearm and said, "Don't go alone." She had wrapped her fist around a rosary, and the beads creaked on the nurse's counter like a dry rosary home. After that, we waited for the sun as if it were a benediction. We taped the patient boards like they were promises. We counted the inventory like verses, and we kept the coffee warm. But the hospital had changed its appetite. It wanted names. It wanted the soft currency of someone's history. It wanted us to remember and then forget 1,000 small things. Every late-night worker who walks these floors knows. There are patients who are not human. They bend, they ask, and they keep the rhythm of the building. They learn who you loved. They find the names in your mouth when push becomes a shove. It is how it gets you. I could tell you every small terror I've seen. The woman who visits patients in room 214 and cleans around them until dawn and then vanishes from the ledger. The nurse who stopped blinking at 3:03 one morning and who now writes no more progress notes. Her chart is an empty page. The kid in pediatrics who hums a song that his mother says he never knew. But what matters most now is the sound coming from below when the PA repeats its announcement. Code gray, sublevel. There is a knocking now under my boots. It is low and steady and old as iron. It finds the rhythm of the hospital's bones. I have been told by those who have lasted that it will stop when something gives. Either the sublevel is satisfied, or we finally remember the name they call us by, and quit the bed of flesh we call life. I do not know which will come first. Tonight is my shift. The clock on the wall reads 11:53 p.m. The nurses are quiet, their faces pressed to screens like oracles. The security guard is tapping a cigarette outside the loading bay, though he quit last year. The PA stutters now and then and sometimes says nothing at all. The corridors are full of small echoes. I have my cart and the list and the rule in my pocket in a worn fold. I have learned the counting. If I write nothing else after this, know that the hospital is older than healing and meaner than medicine. The patients aren't human, and they want more than sympathy. They want names. They want notices. They want the shape of our lives folded into their endless rooms. They are patient, and hospitals are patient things. They wait until late enough that only those who remember will hear their knock. If I do not come home, if I am replaced by a shape that carries my voice and uses my name, remember the rules. Do not answer. If someone says, "You're late again," turn and walk away. Keep your head down on 3. When the PA calls sublevel, clap your hands over your ears and walk into the light. When you clock out, do not look back. Right now, something from below scratches the foundation in time with my heartbeat. It taps slow and wide, and as if it knows the exact pitch of a man's terror. The monitor in the empty room across the hall flashes bright, as a thing trying to announce 00. I have my pen. I have this paper. The overhead speaker hums, and then goes quiet, and then, for a second, plays a voice that is mine but softer, singing a song my mother used to hum when I fell asleep. It is 11:58. The hand on the clock pushes itself forward like a muscle, deciding to move. The night presses in like a palm. I can hear the stairwell laughing down below. They are ready to teach me the wrong steps. The stairwell keeps laughing. Not loud laughter, not playful laughter, but soft, trembling giggles. The kind children make when they're hiding in the dark, waiting for you to come find them. I can hear it through the wall. A little voice, then another, then a third. There is more than one tonight. The elevator at the end of the hall dings once, even though no one pressed the button. The doors slide open slowly, the inside lit with a pale yellow glow. A wheelchair sits inside, turned toward me, as if waiting. The giggling in the stairwell stops. The silence afterward hits me like a blow. Still, thick, expectant. I grip the cart and force myself forward, but the air around me feels wrong, almost too heavy to breathe. Every instinct inside me whispers, don't make a sound. Don't look toward the stairwell. Don't move too fast. Don't move too slow. Just keep walking. I pass room 309 again. The ceiling doesn't move this time, but I hear a faint tapping from inside the wall. It moves from left to right like something crawling behind the pipes. I ignore it. I have learned to ignore the things that want attention. I reach the nurse's station. The night nurse, Monica, sits slumped over a chart. Her pen hangs loosely from her fingers. She isn't asleep, but she isn't awake either. Her eyes stare forward, unfocused, wide, glassy, like someone remembering something they shouldn't remember. "Monica," I whisper. She doesn't move. The pen falls from her fingers and hits the desk without a sound. That's when I realize there is no sound at all. The hospital isn't silent. It's muted, like someone pressed their hand over the building's mouth. No buzzing from the lights, no beeping monitors, no distant footsteps, no hum from the vents. Nothing. "Monica," I whisper again, louder. She blinks once. Her lips move. "You're late," she murmurs. Every part of my body freezes. Rule 2. Don't respond. Don't acknowledge. Walk away. But she's the nurse I work with every night, and something in her voice sounds like drowning. I step back slowly. Her eyes follow me, even though the rest of her body is still. "You're late again," she repeats, softer this time. Then something shifts behind her eyes. A ripple, like a shadow swimming behind glass. I don't wait to see what it becomes. I turn and walk down the hall, heart pounding against my ribs. My footsteps echo again, sounds slowly returning like blood rushing back into a numb limb. The hospital breathes. Lights buzz. Monitors chirp. The vents hum. But Monica doesn't move behind me. I don't look back to check if she ever does. I reach the far hallway, where the staff lounge rests at the end. A soft yellow light spills from underneath the door. Relief washes over me. Break room. Coffee machine. Bright light. Human voices. I push the door open. Everything inside is normal. The couch, the table, the old TV mounted on the wall. But the air feels wrong again. The coffee pot is full. Steam rises gently, and someone is sitting at the table, back facing me. Dark hair, navy scrubs, familiar posture. "Devin," I whisper. He turns. It is Devin, but not the Devin I know. He died 6 months ago in a car crash. But here he sits, alive, breathing, his ID badge reflecting the fluorescent light. "Aaron," he says softly, "you're late." The world tilts. He stands slowly, and the chair legs screech across the floor. I stumble back, grab the door frame. He disappears. One blink, and he is gone. The room is empty again. The coffee pot is cold. No steam. Dust on the counter. I slam the door shut, my hands shaking. My breathing echoes down the hallway. Too loud, too fast. I need help. I need someone real. So I go to the one place I swore never to step into again. The security office. Old security guard Walter is on duty tonight. He's been here longer than any doctor. If anyone knows what's happening, it's him. I hurry through the dim corridor, turn the corner, and stop. Walter is standing in the middle of the hall, facing the wall. His walkie-talkie hangs at his hip. His flashlight lies on the floor beside his boot. His head is pressed against the wall like he's listening to something inside it. "Walter," I whisper, terrified of what sound might break the silence. He doesn't turn. His fingers twitch. His shoulders rise and fall like he's struggling to breathe. "Walter," I repeat, stepping closer. It's me. His head slowly turns. Not his body, only his head, rotating far too much, bones cracking softly inside his neck. His eyes are full of tears. "Aaron," he whispers, voice shaking. "What's happening?" He opens his mouth, but the voice that comes out is not his. It is layered, old, and hungry. "You're late." My blood goes cold. There is a scraping on the ceiling above us, followed by a soft thud, then a long, slow drag across the tiles. I don't dare look up. Walter's body collapses to the floor. His eyes stay open, glassy, empty. "Walter," I crouch beside him. His chest doesn't rise. His skin is cooling. He's gone, but the thing that spoke through him isn't. A handprint appears on the wall above his head. Long fingers, wet, smearing downward. I run, sprinting down the hallway, past the rooms, past the lights that flicker as I pass under them. The PA crackles overhead. Then a voice, cold, mechanical, wrong. Code gray, sublevel. The announcement repeats, over and over, louder each time. There is no sublevel, but the elevator at the end of the hall opens with a low chime. Inside is darkness, thick, alive darkness. A faint scratching sound rises from the bottom of the shaft. Something is climbing up. I back away, and then the stairwell door behind me bursts open. A small child stands there, barefoot, smiling, head tilted too far to one side. "Come play," he says. My legs refuse to move. He giggles, the same giggle I heard in the stairwell earlier. Footsteps begin to climb the stairs behind him. Slow, soft, dozens of them, and the lights go out, one by one. Closer, closer, closer. "Aaron," the boy whispers. "You're late again." The darkness swallows the hallway, and something cold touches the back of my neck. I felt the cold before I felt any weight. It slid like a wet cloth along my neck and down my spine, and with it came the smell of rain on iron and old books, an odor that never belongs inside a hospital. My skin prickled, hairs rising in a line along my arms. I wanted to turn, to run, but my legs seemed to have their own stubborn mind, rooted like a tree. The child took a step forward, and behind him the stairwell filled with tiny sounds. Feet padding, whispers, a chorus of soft breaths. The elevator's darkness pulsed faintly, like a throat waiting to swallow. Somewhere, deep under the tiles, something struck the concrete with a slow, patient rhythm. The whole building answered that beat. "Play," the child said, reaching a pale hand toward me. His smile was pure and hungry. I remember the rules. Rule 5. If you hear a child laugh in the stairwell after 2 a.m., take the elevator. Do not open the stairwell door. I had come out the door instead. I forced my foot forward like I could force myself out of the dream. The boy's fingers brushed my sleeve. His touch was cold as wet glass. A tiny spark chased down my arm and lit every nerve, so bright I thought I might burn. "Don't," I started, but the word died in my throat. The stairwell behind him was not empty anymore. Shadows pooled on the steps, and then rose like smoke, shapes resolving into small faces pressed through the wood, mouths moving without breath. The steps themselves were slick with wetness that gleamed faintly under the emergency light. Something from below the hospital thudded a beat, like a heavy heart. It was slow, deliberate. The boy's hand tightened on my sleeve, not harshly, but as if he meant to keep me near, like a child clutching a parent's coat. I yanked my arm back. The fabric tore. The boy's smile flickered and then hardened. Something older and angrier slid into that small face. "You came," he said, not quite a whisper now. "You always do." My mouth went dry. I stumbled backward, nearly colliding with a supply cart. The hall lights were covered in jerks, casting everything in alternating washes of hospital white and shadow. For a second, the world spun and the child was gone. The stairwell was empty. The elevator doors were closed again, perfectly ordinary. There was a sound behind me, small and metallic, the sound of a tag scraping across a badge reel. Then the mundanity of a nurse's station returned, fluorescent hum, and the soft clack of keyboards. Monica sat back up as if waking from a nap, hitting a button and muttering about unfinished notes. The clipboards looked normal. The vending machine hummed. But Walter still lay on the floor out in the hall where I had left him. I should have gone to him. I should have called Code Blue, done CPR, fetched the AED. But the moment I glanced at him, a new sound took over. A whisper sliding against my ear, a voice that knew the exact word to make me stop. "I'm late," it breathed. Not a voice from the child. My own voice. My name folded into the syllables that way the building seemed to love. It was intimate and wrong. I realized then that the hospital had already borrowed small pieces of me. My cadence, the way I said someone's name, the rhythm of my breath when I've been caught off guard. It uses them like keys, testing locks to see which doors open. I forced myself to move. I checked Walter properly. His pulse was gone. Dead, not sleep. The thing that had been there had bled him out without leaving the red the way a normal wound does. No blood on the tile, just a cold, numbing stain under his skin and a smear on the paint behind him. I radioed security with hands that shook. The walkie crackled and gave me a recorded tone as if a joke were being played by a machine. They were slow to answer because, later, after everything, they told me their radios had failed, the signal choked by interference. Some of them thought it was a storm. I told the supervisor to call an ambulance. He looked at me like I'd told him a story and said we'd be here 3 more hours before an EMT got here, which meant we had to do the first pull ourselves. The supervisor was pale, and his nameplate had been replaced by a sticky note that read, in careful pen. He kept glancing toward the stairwell, like someone watching a door about to open. I scrubbed the floor with my gloves on. Felt like I was trying to wipe off a memory that had clung to the tile. The words on my tongue tasted like copper and rust. Things changed fast after Walter. The banality cracked. Rooms rearranged themselves in ways that looked small and then took over the night. A supply closet that I'd run through 100 times suddenly had a door that led to more hallway. That hallway ended in a small waiting room that had no windows and only a single chair facing the wall. In that chair sat a person whose face I recognized in a way that made my stomach turn. It was me, folding his hands in his lap, eyes forward, expression blank. The reflection of myself, sitting there, looked tired in a way I had not yet realized. I backed away, but the room refused to let me go. The door swung shut on its own and locked with a soft click. My phone lost service. The fluorescent lights hummed low, like a chorus, trying to remember a tune. Voice calls from downstairs came in as soft static. The PA system went dead, leaving a hiss. Then a new sound began, from the waiting room chair where the still figure sat. A low humming beneath the hum, a rhythm like nails dragged across a tuning fork. The figure, my figure, lifted its head slowly and turned. Its mouth opened in a smile that matched mine so perfectly I nearly vomited. It croaked my name and then sang a lullaby my mother used to hum to me when I was a child. The lullaby in that hallway was wrong because in its wrongness it was filleted of love and left as constraint. What had been tender now functioned like a trap. I pressed my palms to my ears because that had sometimes helped in the past. When the thing called my name, it fell away if I insisted on ignoring it. The lullaby wrapped around my ribs like a corset. The figure stood and walked me to the door in the exact steps I would have taken if I were living a life on autopilot. It shoved me forward with 2 hands that smelled like wet magazines. I shouted, struggled, and then a noise, higher, a brittle peal, rang through the air. It was the sound of a page being torn out of something old. Doors opened all down the corridor, not necessarily to rooms, but to slabs of blankness like someone had peeled wallpaper back, and underneath there was a darkness that breathed out. From each crease in the wall, a small face peeked, then another, a crowd of mouths moving in representations of teeth. They made no sound because the building had already muted itself where it wanted to hold a secret. I ran. I broke free. I slammed in the hallway and the door clicked shut behind me like a punishment. The hall seemed longer now, like a corridor that was stretching in front of me the way a muscle will twitch but not stop twitching until you look away. Every corner I turned offered a different version of the hospital, sometimes bright and fully staffed, nurses moving like ghosts, sometimes corridors dark and used by things that did not need corridors but learned quickly how to use them anyway. I needed to reach the stairwell. No, the elevator. The vertical choices amused the place and tended to trap you worse. The elevator's doors at the end of the hall slid open and the wheelchair inside rotated slowly toward me. Come, it seemed to say, not in voice but in pure, clear invitation. The controllers in the elevator were blank. The panel hovered with an unreadable light. I thought of the rule again and tried to put into practice. Rule 5. If you hear a child laugh in the stairwell after 2 a.m., take the elevator. So I stepped in. The wheelchair waited like a throne. The doors closed. The lift descended like a coffin. But the elevator did not go where the panel said. It traveled sideways for a long moment, through a darkness that smelled of damp paper, and then it stopped with a soft sigh. The doors opened not into the lobby, but into a long concrete room with pipes along the ceiling and a single metal door at the far end that read simply, sublevel. The paint on the door was peeling like dry skin. Someone had scrawled a word on it with a fingernail. Stay. My stomach fell. Somehow, I had obeyed the rule and landed right onto the one thing it warned us to ignore. The panel in the elevator flashed, and then darkened. There was no way back up. The air in the sublevel was a different temperature. Warmer, clammy. The fluorescent lights there hummed in a discordant key. I felt the whole building leaning toward that door, as if gravity favored it. The metallic scent of machinery, mixed with something floral and sickly sweet, like the scent of funeral flowers heated under a light. I moved forward anyway, because once you open that door of curiosity, the hospital feels the heat of your interest and presses closer. The metal door was unlocked. My hand shook as I pushed it open. The hinges moved without sound. Inside, a wide room stretched away, lined with beds, each covered with a sheet. The sheets moved as if with breath. The beds were not organized by any chart I knew. They were arranged like a congregation, facing the center of the room. A sound like shifting paper made me look up. There, on the far wall, hung framed photographs, Polaroids, faded and smeared, as if a child's hand had pressed at them again and again. I recognized none until my eyes adjusted. There, tucked into the last frame, was a snapshot of me. The photograph had been taken from an angle I knew too well. The nurse's station, just outside the lounge. My face in the frame smiled, and above the photo someone had written in thick black marker, "Late." A laugh echoed in the room, then, not from the photos, not from the faces, but from the bed next to mine. A sheet peeled back. There was something beneath it, not a familiar body, not human. A mass of folded limbs and long, paper knife fingers. It turned its head, if that is what the mass did, and in a voice that was a dozen voices layered together, it said, "You came down." My throat closed. I tried to back out. The metal door behind me was gone. No seam in the concrete, no handle, nothing. The room had assembled itself to trap me, an interior that only ever appears to those who the hospital intends to keep. The overhead light flickered and then went steady. The mass moved toward me, not with legs but with a slick motion as if sliding on its underside. It smelled of wet cardboard and cold tea. And then I heard my mother's lullaby again, louder now and impossible, coming from every direction. The Polaroids on the wall rustled like a flock of birds taking fright. The faces in the photographs blurred and shifted. The person who had sat in the nurse's station for years blinked, and his eyelids did not match any pattern I knew. "You are ours," the mass whispered, and as it spoke the letters on my photograph seemed to smear and run like ink and water. I cannot tell you how long I stayed in there. Time stretched elastic, a rubber band, pulled to the point of snapping, and then held. Sometimes I lost my sense of where a minute ended and an hour began. My watch died within 20 minutes of descending. The hand stopped at 12:01. The last sane minute I'd felt as a worker in a hospital and not a figure on a sheet of someone else's story. Eventually, a sound broke my stupor. It was high, a shrill ringing, like glass being struck in a place where no glass exists. It was the code alarm, a manual override the supervisors have in the case of emergency, and right below at the PA system piped a clear announcement, one the hospital had not said since facilities were modernized. All staff report to sublevel immediately. Accountability required. The voice was not the regular PA voice. It sounded like it had been recorded on an old reel-to-reel machine and then resped with malice. It said, clearly, like a finality, accountability required. I understood in that instant what required meant. It meant the hospital was tolling. It meant it had chosen tonight to take its due. The mass in the center of the room laughed, a sound like a rusted hinge. The sheets slid off the assembly of beds, revealing forms not quite whole. Some with faces sewn into the fabric, others with eyes like buttons that reflected no light. The room was a theater of waiting things. They had been sleeping, and now they were being baptized into wakefulness by the hospital's demand. I ran and hit the steel door and pressed my weight against it, and it gave just a breath, and then the corridor beyond shifted and the light began to wake again. I burst through into a hall I thought I recognized, and my badge chirped as I ran past the control desk, leaving a static trail like a dropped radio message. The nurses appear in sawtooth motion, some moving forward with purpose I had not seen in them before, others walking with chains around their ankles I could not see. The supervisor looked at me and said, "We are missing names on the board," in a calm voice that did not match the speed of his hands. He had a checklist, and his fingers moved with a cold precision that did not belong to panic. He slid a paper across his desk with handwriting that I did not know. It had my name, and beside it a little red dot. "You're on the list," he said, and not an accusation, but like a statement of fact. His eyes were empty wells. I tried to protest. I tried to say we must call outside help, that we must lock the doors, that we must bring witnesses, that hospitals are places of healing, not of reckoning. But every word I tried to piece together became a reflection of something the place wanted me to be. The supervisor tapped the paper and smiled like someone satisfied with the tallying of inventory. Then the PA system hummed into life. "This is a code gray, sub-level," it intoned. "All personnel are to stand by for reassignment." The voice repeated itself. And at that exact moment, the little red beside my name on the paper extended thin tendrils like ink spilling off a page, crawling across the sheet toward the names around it. I watched in the hush as those tendrils touched other dots. They glowed briefly, and then the names beside them blinked out, as if erased from a board by a hand of smoke. People in the station folded their hands and bowed their heads the way you do in an observance. And the sound of their breathing multiplied until the whole room felt like a chest that could not hold itself. I shoved through the crowd and bolted for the stairwell. Not the stairs I had used before, not the elevator that had betrayed me, but the main stair that led up 3 flights to the roof. I could smell rain and old ceilings and something like a child's toothpaste. The stair doors were heavy, solid metal. I flung one open and clambered up. On the landing, a figure waited, tall, familiar in the worst way. Devon, smiling like a boy in a photograph, motioning me forward. Behind him, the stairwell swelled with faces. Faces I recognized from birthdays and funerals, from charts long closed. They leaned on the rails, silent and patient. Above them a voice, my voice, sang in a thin soprano, calling names like beads. I kept climbing because the roof promised air and the sky, a place where hospitals cannot rearrange the tiles. I reached the roof door and shoved it open, and for a split second the night poured over me like cold water. The city beyond was a smear of lights, ordinary and obstinate. The hospital's roof sat under a steady drizzle that washed like a blessing. Then the door shut, not behind me, but across the roof. And across the horizon something moved, an impossible silhouette rising, taller than the hospital itself, long arms reaching to scrape the sky. And it leaned toward our roof, as if the whole building were flexing its neck to bring the rooftop into its mouth. Below, somewhere within the hospital's hollow belly, something heavy knocked, 3 measured beats that matched the rhythm of my heart. My phone was dead. My badge beeped and shorted. The clock on the hospital wall, normally immune to weather and mood, had stopped at 3:03. A lullaby echoed from the stairwell below, raising its small voices to the sky. "You're late again. You're late again." And I understood, with a clarity that made the world ache, that the hospital does not only take the nights. It takes the ones who remember the nights. It waits until a man is tired, until he is alone, until the tallying is precise, and then it comes for him in the exact cadence of the voices he loved most. The silhouette on the horizon stretched like a shadow pulled taut. The roof door clicked shut one last time. I braced my shoulder against it, pressed until my ribs threatened to crack. Somewhere below the tiles, the building called. Accountability required. I am writing this on the back of a patient list beneath the emergency light. The pen slips sometimes when I shake. Rain dots the paper like small, deliberate warnings. The clock above the nurse's station reads 3:06. The stairwell laughs again, softer now, as if indulging a joke only it understands. If anyone reads this and thinks it is only metaphor, punchlines dressed up as Gothic taste. Go home before midnight. Close your blinds. Don't listen when the patient on the monitor calls your name and says you're late. Walk away from rooms that are empty but knocking. If I leave this roof, if the door opens and the city accepts me, I will go. I will not look back. But if the door stays, or if the silhouette reaches our skyline, then I am not the man who began this night. I'm a line on a chart. I am a dot on a page. I am something that learned to say the words in your mouth, so it could sound like comfort before it does the harm. The stairwell laughs one more time, a sound like paper rustling. The roof shakes like a living thing, inhaling. I step to the edge and look down, and, for the first time in years, I pray. Don't take the ones who don't know anything. I say to the dark, take me instead. The night answers a slow, soft knock. 3 taps. Not from the roof door, not from the stairwell below, but from the air behind me, like something invisible knocking on my spine. Cold rushed across my body, so fast my knees buckled. The drizzle turned icy. The wind curled around my ears in a tight whisper, like a mouth pressed too close. I didn't turn around. I already knew what I would see if I did. The edge of the roof felt like the only place the hospital couldn't fully reach. But even here, the night was bending. The lights of the city below flickered one by one, like someone was walking through the streets, turning off the world with a switch. My breath fogged out in harsh clouds. Then the fog lingered, not drifting away, but sticking to the air like smoke. It began to shape into fingers. I stepped back from the ledge, heart pounding, rain hitting my face like needles. The fog hand reached toward me, slow and careful, like it didn't want to scare me, like it wanted to touch me gently. Aaron. My name slipped through the air again, soft, calm, familiar. My mother's voice. No, it wasn't her. It was something that had learned her tone, learned her warmth, learned the exact softness she used when waking me from nightmares. Don't turn around, I whispered to myself. The fog fingers stopped inches from my cheek, then curled slightly, as if inviting me closer. Behind me, the silhouette on the horizon leaned forward again, its long arms stretching across the sky like a black branch bending toward prey. The hospital vibrated beneath my feet, the roof trembling in small pulses. My phone buzzed once, even though it was dead. I pulled it from my pocket. The screen lit up. One new voicemail. From Mom, save contact. My heart twisted painfully. My mother had been gone 12 years. The voicemail began playing without me pressing anything. Her voice filled the air around me. Too clear, too alive. You're late, sweetheart. Come home. The fog hand touched my cheek. Warm now, gentle, and so wrong. I slapped it away on instinct, my hand passing through air that felt thick like warm breath. The fog hand shuddered, then twisted into a sharp, thin shape before curling back in a night like smoke sucked away. A deep rumble echoed far below me. The hospital shook again, harder this time. The roof door behind me rattled violently, as if someone, or something, was trying to break it open with their bare hands. Let me in, a voice cried from the other side. Monica's voice, then Devon's, then Walter's. Then a dozen voices layered together. "Let me in, Aaron. You're late." The metal bent inward. I stumbled back, searching for anything to brace the door, but the roof was empty. Nothing but wet concrete and a life I was losing grip of. The metal dent grew deeper, the hinges screaming under pressure. Panic surged through me. I sprinted across the roof, grabbed a heavy plastic bin near the air vent, dragged it toward the door. But the door stopped suddenly. Silent. Still. No sound. No breathing. No scratching. Just the night breathing around me. I leaned in listening. A soft click. The doorknob slowly turned on its own. My stomach dropped. I staggered back, heart slamming against my ribs as the handle completed its turn, and the door opened only an inch. A thin sliver of darkness stared at me. No voice. No shape. Just a black line slicing the air. Rain leaked into the gap, pattering softly. Then a hand slid out from inside. Not fog, not shadow. A real hand. Human. Warm. Shaking. "Aaron." A whisper came from deeper inside. "Please help me." The voice broke. It wasn't a mimic. It wasn't a monster. It was real. I recognized it. Dr. Jensen. Night shift surgeon. Kind. Soft-spoken. A man who once helped me after I cut my hand in the utility room. His trembling hand reached through the gap again. "Aaron, they took the stairs," he whispered. "Don't let them." Behind him, something growled. Low, guttural, a sound that vibrated the metal door. Dr. Jensen flinched, eyes wide. "Close it," he rasped. "Close it now." I lunged forward, grabbing the door, slamming it shut with all the strength in my body. His hand just barely slipped back through the crack before the door sealed. Something slammed into the other side, so hard the metal shook. Then came a growl. Deep, wet, starving. Not human. Not close to human. I held the door shut with my shoulder, my arms, my entire body shaking under its weight. The metal bent inward again. Claws screeched across it from the other side. I screamed into the storm, fury mixing with terror. "Leave me alone." The hospital answered. Lights on the roof flickered and then went black. Only the red emergency beacon pulsed behind me, casting everything in blood-warm light. Another slam. Another growl. The hinges snapped half an inch out of place. I braced myself, leaning into the door with everything I'd left. "Jensen," I yelled through the metal. "Are you there? Are you okay?" Silence. Then, very softly, right at the seam of the door, "You're late again, Aaron." Not Jensen. Not even close. The voice was deeper now, distorted, like someone dragging metal across gravel. The entire door bulged outward once more. And then, suddenly, it went still. Completely still. Not a sound. Not a breath. Only the soft tap, tap, tap of rain dripping from the edge of the hospital roof. I waited. Seconds stretched into minutes. The metal slowly undented itself, creaking as if taking a long breath inward. The doorknob turned back to neutral on its own. Then something whispered behind my left ear. "We found your mother." I whipped around. Nothing was there, but far across the roof, near the air duct, I saw something standing in the fog. A woman, tall, still, wearing a hospital gown too thin for the cold. Her hair wet and plastered her cheeks, her face hidden in shadow. "Aaron," she whispered, lifting one trembling hand toward me. "Come here." My heart stopped. Not figuratively. My chest actually froze. Her voice was perfect. Her tone, her break, her breath. My mother. But she was dead. Gone. Buried in a grave I had visited for 12 years. My legs moved on their own. One step. Another. The rain softened around her, like the air was warmer near her. She took a slow, unsteady step forward. "Aaron," she whispered again, voice breaking softly. "I miss you." Tears burned my eyes. My throat closed. I wanted to run to her, hold her, listen to her, tell her everything I never said. But then, Her shadow stretched across the concrete behind her. Too long, too thin, too many limbs. Her silhouette didn't match her body. Her voice cracked again, this time deeper, almost a warning. Erinner. The shadow behind her rose, lifting like a second figure made of ink. It grew taller, 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 until it reached the roof's antenna. Her voice dissolved into static, and the shadow leaned forward, revealing eyes. White, empty, glowing. The same eyes I saw in room 317. The same eyes that crawled across the ceiling tiles on floor 3. The same eyes that used my voice in the dark. My legs locked in place. I couldn't breathe, couldn't move, couldn't even blink. The shadow creature uncurled itself behind my mother's shape, and then stepped into her. Her body jerked. Her head snapped upward. Her arms twisted like a puppet pulled too fast. Her voice spilled out, layered with the creature's. Late again. The wind exploded across the roof. The lights flashed. The hospital vibrated. The door behind me slammed inward, and the monster wearing my mother's outline rushed me in a blur. I didn't even have time to scream. The world snapped black. I didn't fall. I didn't collapse. I didn't drift into a normal unconsciousness. It felt like I was yanked sideways, like the roof disappeared and the sky folded in half, and the hospital exhaled me into another place, a place the walls had been hiding. When I opened my eyes, there was no storm, no city skyline, no roof, no air. I stood in a hallway that wasn't any hallway in St. Mercy's. It was older, colder, built of concrete that looked poured by hand decades ago. No lights flickered overhead, no ceiling tiles, just a single hanging bulb glowing with a weak orange pulse, as if someone had trapped a candle inside a plastic shell. Drip, drip, drip. Water pooled around my shoes. I tried to move, but my body was stiff, like I'd slept too long in a terrible position. My throat tasted like metal. Something warm trickled down the back of my neck. I reached behind me. Blood. My blood. But I wasn't dead. I wasn't dying. The wound felt shallow, a warning, not a kill. A soft hum echoed through the corridor, deep and rhythmic. The same hum I'd heard under the hospital floors for years. Something was moving in the concrete, breathing in it, waiting. My voice came out shaky. Hello. The hum stopped instantly. The bulb above me flickered once, twice. And then a voice whispered from behind me. Back already. I spun around. Nothing. Only a long corridor, sinking into darkness, so thick it looked solid. My heart hammered. My legs shook. But I forced myself backward, step by step. Then I saw the first sign that this place wasn't a hallucination, wasn't a dream, wasn't my brain protecting itself. I saw a hospital bed. One single metal frame bed pushed against the wall, half rusted. Sheets gray with age. Straps dangling from the rails. But the mattress was fresh, warm. Someone had been lying there recently. Someone my size. Someone who had bled as I bled. My blood. So this was where they kept me. Or where they planned to. A wet cough echoed deeper down the hall. Soft. Weak. Human. Help! A man's voice croaked. I froze. Someone else was here. Who's there? I whispered. Another cough. Closer now. Then a hand reached out of the darkness, gripping the edge of the wall. Long fingers. Bone thin. Then a face appeared into the dim, orange light. My breath caught. It was Dr. Jensen, or what was left of him. His skin was pale blue, his eyes too wide, his mouth hanging open in a permanent O of fear, his scrubs soaked in something dark and sticky. But he was standing. He was breathing. Jensen, I whispered, stepping forward. You're alive. He stared at me without blinking. You shouldn't be here, he rasped. I know, you shouldn't be here, he repeated, louder this time, voice cracking at the edges. He stepped closer, moving strangely, like his bones didn't fit right inside his skin anymore. You're not supposed to come back down here. Down, I whispered. We're below the hospital. His head jerked sharply, like he heard something I didn't. He raised a trembling finger to his lips. SHHHH. Footsteps echoed behind him. Heavy. Slow. So heavy the floor vibrated. Jensen shoved me backward so hard I hit the wall. Run, he whispered, tears streaking down his face. Please, Aaron. It follows sound. What follows sound? I whispered. He sobbed. I don't know its name. The footsteps grew louder. Boom, 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 coming closer. The lights flickered. Jensen pushed me again. Run. So I did. I sprinted down the hallway, shoes splashing through puddles, breath tearing from my throat. Behind me, Jensen's voice rose into a scream. Not him. Take me. Not him. His scream cut off. Not faded. Not died out. Just stopped, as if something had swallowed the sound hole. I didn't dare look back. I ran until my lungs burned and the concrete walls blurred. Then the corridor opened into a wide room. A room I knew. A room I had sworn never existed. Sublevel. Except it wasn't like before. It wasn't just beds and Polaroids and shadows pretending to breathe. It was alive. Dozens of hospital beds arranged in a circle, their sheets rising and falling in slow, synchronized breaths. For poles stood like skeletons around them, bags filled with thick, dark fluid that pulsed like veins. The air smelled like blood and bleach. In the center of the room stood a massive metal chair. No mattress, no cushioning, just steel restraints bolted into its frame. And carved into the concrete behind it were words. This one belongs to US. My knees weakened. My name was etched beneath the sentence. Fresh. Scratched by fingernails. By my fingernails. A tremor shook the room. I turned slowly. From the far corner, a shape pulled itself into the dim glow. Tall. Too tall. Its back arched. Its arms dragging across the floor. Head tilted in a way that made my bones ache. Its face. No, it had no face. Just smooth skin stretched too tight over a skull-like shape. But it had a mouth. A wide, toothless hole that opened in a soundless scream. Then a voice whispered into the room, though the creature never moved its lips. You're late, Aaron. The creature stepped forward. Its hand rose, and inside its palm, a second mouth formed. Opening, smiling. A joiner, the voice whispered. A keeper, a name we can use. I stumbled backward. No, I choked out. Not me. The mouth in its palm widened, stretching into an impossible grin. You came when we called. Behind me, the metal chair rattled violently. Straps lifted into the air, twisting like hungry snakes. The beds around me breathed harder, faster, as if excited. The voice echoed again, deeper now, shaking my ribs. Accountability required. The creature surged forward. I turned and bolted through the nearest door. Down a hallway. Around a corner. Through a service tunnel filled with darkness thick as smoke. The footsteps followed behind me. Slow at first. Then faster. Then right behind me. I burst through a maintenance hatch, tripping on a cold tile. I was back on the hospital's second floor. The lights buzzed overhead. Monitors beeped normally. A janitor was mopping the floor, humming gently. Two nurses walked past me chatting about a patient. Everything was normal. Too normal. I scrambled up and ran to the nurse's station. Where's Monica? I gasped. One of the nurses looked up at me. Who? Monica? I repeated. Night nurse. Short. Red hair. Works floor 3. The nurse shook her head. There's no one here by that name, sir. I froze. Then she pointed at the clock on the wall. It was 6:02 a.m. Shift end. Daylight spilling through the windows. But something felt wrong. Terribly wrong. The janitor walked past me, whispering under his breath. You're late again. I spun around, but it wasn't him. The whisper came from the ceiling vent. I stepped toward the exit doors, heart pounding. The sunlight outside looked warm, safe, inviting. I reached for the doors. A tiny hand pressed against the glass from the outside. The same child from the stairwell. Eyes black, mouth smiling. See you tonight, he mouthed silently. The automatic doors refused to open. The PA crackled overhead. Code gray, sublevel. No, not again. I turned. Every patient in the lobby, every nurse, every doctor, they were staring at me. All of them. Every pair of eyes blank, fixed, unblinking. And together, they whispered, "You belong to us now, Aaron." My knees buckled. Something moved behind me. A cold hand brushed the back of my neck, and the world dissolved into darkness. Darkness didn't feel empty this time. It felt crowded, like hundreds of people were standing just outside my skin, breathing softly, listening to my heartbeat, waiting for something. I opened my eyes slowly. I was lying on a bed, not a hospital bed, an older one, thin mattress, metal frame, sheets rough like burlap, and I wasn't strapped down. Yet, a hum vibrated through the room, low, steady, like machinery buried under concrete. I sat up. The room around me was small, square, windowless. The walls were pale, cracked. A single bulb hung from the ceiling, swaying slightly as if someone had just left. My head throbbed with a dull ache. Then I noticed a door, a metal door, thick, industrial, the same type I saw on the sublevel. On it, carved with something sharp, were words. Returned. A chill ran through me. Voices whispered beyond the door, multiple, soft, layered. A language I didn't understand. Or maybe a language no human should understand. My pulse quickened. Then one voice separated itself from the rest. A slow, dragging whisper. "You came back, Aaron." I froze. That was Jensen's voice. But wrong. Slower. Heavy. Like each word was pushed through soil before reaching my ears. I backed away from the door. "No," I whispered. "No, I didn't come back. I didn't choose to be here." Another voice joined his. A woman's this time. "Monica, you belong here now." My throat tightened. Where is here?" I whispered. The voices chuckled lightly. "You know." I shook my head. "Tell me." Silence. Then, the door handle turned. I pressed myself against the wall. The door didn't open all the way. Just an inch. A single eye peered through the gap. Not human. Too white. Too reflective. And unblinking. It studied me. Then a quiet voice from behind it whispered, "You're late again." The door closed. A lock clanked. Footsteps faded. My breathing was loud now. Too loud. Echoing off the cramped room. I needed out. I needed air. I needed distance from whatever watched me through that door. I scanned the room. Nothing. No vents. No windows. Only a small metal panel near the floor, bolted shut. I knelt and tried pulling it open. The screws didn't move, but something shifted behind it, like a body repositioning itself. I jerked back. A soft thump hit the metal from the other side. Then a smaller voice whispered, "Aaron, help him." It sounded like a child. The same child from the stairwell. The same child from the hospital exit. "No," I whispered. No. A tiny fingertip slipped out under the panel. Reaching, wiggling, trying to find me. My chest tightened until I could barely breathe. I stood up, stumbling, gripping the bed frame. The panel rattled harder. Tiny knuckles tapped it in a rhythm that matched my heartbeat. I grabbed the bed frame again and yanked. It scraped loudly across the floor as I angled it to wedge under the handle of the door. Metal squeaked. Voices whispered angrily behind the panel. A soft growl vibrated through the floor. Then silence. I stood there, panting. My head buzzed. Where was I? What was this place? I closed my eyes tight and forced myself to think. I remembered falling on the roof. I remembered the creature wearing my mother's voice. I remembered being dragged into darkness. Dragged. Down. My stomach twisted painfully. This wasn't sublevel. It was lower. Far lower. A place beneath the place that wasn't supposed to exist. My mind flashed back to the hospital's rules. Rule 6. If the PA system calls code gray, sublevel, pretend you didn't hear it. There is no sublevel. Except there was. And if this wasn't sublevel, if this was deeper than that, Then what the hell was this place? I pressed my back against the wall, gripping my hair with shaking hands. The bulb above flickered. A new sound emerged. A faint dragging, somewhere in the hallway outside my door. Heavy, wet, slow, getting closer. Not feet. Hands. Hands dragging across the floor. The dragging stopped right outside my door. A long breath sucked through teeth. Then something pressed against the crack under the door. A tongue. A long, thin tongue sliding across the floor toward me. I screamed, the loudest I've screamed in my adult life, and kicked the bed frame hard against the door. The metal clanged. The tongue hissed away. A screech filled the hallway. A raw, animal-like shriek. I shoved the bed harder, bracing it against the handle. My hand shook uncontrollably. "Leave me alone," I yelled. Silence. Then, a whisper, right behind the door. "But you asked for this." I stumbled back, shaking my head. No, I didn't. I never wanted this." "Yes," the voice whispered. "You did." I covered my ears. My heart pounded in uneven beats. "Stop, please stop." "You wanted answers," it whispered. "You wanted to know why the hospital watches you, why you hear the knocks, why the dead speak your name." My back hit the wall. "Stop. You wanted the truth, Aaron." My lungs felt like fire. "You're here because you asked to know." My voice cracked as I whispered. "Know what?" The creature on the other side leaned close. Its shadow pressed under the door. Its whisper slid into my ear like cold smoke. "What you really are." My legs gave out. I sank to my knees. My breath came in jagged bursts. The bulb above me flickered violently. The creature hissed again, and then something grabbed my ankle from under the bed. A hand, thin, cold, human. It clutched my leg and began to pull. "No, let go." I kicked wildly, slamming my foot against metal. The hand yanked harder. I screamed, clawing at the floor, trying to get away. Then the voice at the door whispered, "It's time to remember." The floor beneath me cracked. Concrete split sideways like a mouth opening. A rush of cold air sucked me downward. I grabbed the bed frame, fingers slipping off the metal. The hand under the bed pulled. The floor pulled. The voices pulled. "You're late," they all whispered together. "You're late again." The bulb exploding overhead was the last thing I heard before the floor swallowed me whole. I didn't hit the ground. I fell, and then I simply stopped falling, suspended in cold, thick air. My arms floated upward, as if I were underwater. My legs dangled. My breath hung in front of me in slow, trembling clouds. Then the darkness around me brightened. Not like light turning on, but like someone peeling back layers of shadow. Shapes appeared. Walls. Pillars. A vast chamber. Bigger than the hospital. Older than the hospital. The air smelled ancient. Dust. Iron. Something sweet under it all, like rotting flowers. A low glow pulsed from the walls, dim and red, like veins under skin. I looked down. I wasn't standing on solid floor. I was on something soft, something that rose and fell gently under my feet. Breathing. A massive surface of flesh-like texture stretched across the entire chamber. Pale, sickly, distended. I staggered off it, gagging. My boots sank an inch into the surface before I reached a patch of normal stone. The breathing continued underneath me. Slow, wet, hungry. "Welcome home." The voice came from behind me. I turned, and my stomach dropped. A woman stood there. The same woman who had appeared on the roof. The creature wearing her shape. But now, she didn't look like my mother. Her face was composed of shifting features. Eyes that changed color every second. A mouth that widened, then shrank, then widened again. Her skin rippled as if something moved beneath it, but her smile stayed the same. "Aaron," she whispered, "you finally came back." My legs trembled so violently I almost fell. What are you?" Her head tilted. "You already know." I shook my head. No, I don't." She stepped closer. With every step, the room shook softly. The breathing beneath the floor quickened. The red veins on the walls pulsed brighter. "You feel it," she said. "You've always felt it." I backed away, but the chamber stretched with me. The walls moved further, as if refusing to let me reach them. You hear the knocks before anyone else does. You see the shadows forming before any eyes adjust. You smell the ones who aren't human. Her voice softened, almost affectionate. "That isn't because you're brave. It's because you're connected." My body turned cold. "What do you mean?" Her hand extended toward me. Her fingers were impossibly long. "You were born in this hospital," she said. I froze. No, I wasn't. I was born at Crescent Hill Community." Her smile widened, too wide. "That's the story they gave your family. But your mother delivered you in our halls. Under our lights. Under our ceiling that bends. We had you first." My heart hammered. "You're lying." "Why would I lie?" she whispered. Images flashed in my mind. Fluorescent lights on white tile. A woman screaming. Doctors moving too fast. A lullaby. A metal door. A handprint on a wall. I stumbled back, clutching my head. No, stop." "Aaron," she said softly. "You hear us because you are one of us." My stomach lurched. "No, you fight it," she said. "But you feel it. Every night. Every shift. Every knock." She stepped closer, and when her feet touched the flesh floor, the entire chamber shivered. "You are our bridge." I shook my head violently. "I'm human." "You're part human," she corrected, the whisper slipping like oil. "Your mother was human. Your father was human. But the hospital chose you before either of them ever saw your face." The room grew colder. She continued, "You hear the sublevel because you were made to hear it. You see the children because you were made to see them. You survive the night shift because you were made for it." My chest tightened until I could barely breathe. "Why me?" She extended her hand. "Because you're not here to visit, Aaron. You're here to take your place." The walls pulsed faster. The breathing under the floor turned frantic, and something enormous stirred in the darkness above. A shape, a form, a massive silhouette as big as the chamber itself. It unfolded limb by limb, rising from the ceiling. A creature older than anything I had ever imagined. Its skin the same pale texture as the floor. Its eyes white voids. Its mouth a single vertical split that reached from chin to chest. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. The woman's voice echoed, now layered with dozens of others. "Meet the one who made you." The giant creature lowered its head to me. A single, cold breath rushed across my face. And in that breath, I heard every voice that had whispered to me over the years. Every knock I'd ever heard. Every lullaby from the vents. Every child's laugh in the stairwell. Every "you're late again." All coming from this thing. I collapsed to my knees, shaking uncontrollably. The woman knelt in front of me. "Don't be afraid," she whispered. "You were never meant to escape. You were meant to open the door." "What door?" I gasped. She smiled. Then behind her, the giant creature opened its chest mouth. Inside I saw a door. A hospital door. White. Sterile. Familiar. With a plaque. "Aaron Hale, night shift." The woman leaned close until her forehead touched mine. "You are not a prisoner here," she whispered. "You are the key." The giant creature roared, a sound so deep it shook the bones in my body. The door in its chest began to open, and a blinding white light poured out. The woman whispered one last thing, her voice both loving and monstrous. "Welcome home." The light swallowed me whole, and just before I lost consciousness, I saw a hand reaching for me from inside the door. My hand, smiling, waiting. Then everything went black.